Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I have a review of the Fujifilm's X100F after 5 years of use. I got mine in 2017. I've been using it for street photography, as my travel camera, birthday parties, lots of different things, just when I need a smaller, lighter camera to carry around. So if you clicked on this video, most likely you want to pick one of these up for yourself, and now's a good time because there is a newer version of this camera, the X100V, but because of chip shortages, they're out of stock. And this, you can definitely save a lot of money buying a used one. Let's jump in with some of my findings over the last 5 years. Let's talk about the build quality. First off, after 5 years, it still looks pretty new. There are some scratches. It hasn't been dropped, I don't think. But it's definitely gotten wet, it's gotten dusty. There is a hybrid viewfinder. I took this to Burning Man where there's very not so good conditions, and the hybrid viewfinder, when you click this up, the viewfinder goes to electronic viewfinder from the rangefinder, and that little window started to stick. But after, I think, a year, it stopped sticking. So it works perfect now, but if you're gonna be in dusty conditions, maybe note that. But I didn't cover it with anything, so the dust didn't really get into the lens at all. It feels really good in the hands. It has the tactile buttons and dials. This has a joystick on the back. It has a D-pad. It has the exposure compensation on the side. It has a wheel for the shutter speed, for the ISO, and then a wheel, or I guess wheel or dial for the aperture. So overall, it just feels really good in the hands. I know there's a lot of accessories. I see people fully kitting this out with a lens hood and a thumb grip, and then sometimes I see people putting on a thing, and for me it defeats the whole purpose of having a compact camera. So I just stuck with no lens hood, no additional thing. I did buy a little shutter button release thing, and that keeps falling out, so I don't use it. The one accessory that I did pick up right away was this kind of leather case, so it just slides in, and I think this might be why the camera's in such good condition still. So it just slides in here. There is a little flap on the bottom so you can easily access your battery door and your memory card. And then if you're not using the camera, it's like an old school design, you just fit this right over, and then it has 2 buttons in the bottom. So if you're somebody that doesn't have, say, a camera bag, or even is interested in getting a camera bag, this kind of is enough protection where you could throw it in your backpack, throw it in your, whatever, your suitcase, whatever bag that you have, or even just have it on the strap, and then it's not really gonna get hurt or damaged because this leather is pretty thick. I actually lost the silver lens cap that came with it, so having this is nice. So first thing that I wasn't expecting, because I looked at all the specs and ins and outs, and I'm gonna get into that in a minute, but the look and the feel of this camera. I got the silver version, as you can see. A lot of people think that it's a film camera when they first see it. They're very curious about it. The way that people respond to this camera, I wasn't expecting. It's not as serious as a professional DSLR or mirrorless, and it's not like an iPhone, because everybody's nowadays used to being photographed by an iPhone. So they pose differently, they look into it. It's just a fun experience overall. I would recommend looking into the black version if you're wanting to get into street photography and this is what you're thinking of, because here's some shots from Vegas. I thought I was being discreet and shooting on the street, and they looked directly at me. So I definitely brought attention to myself, I think because of the look of this. If you're not really familiar with this camera, it has a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor with an f2 fixed lens. So you can't actually take this lens off, which I really love. Just not having the options, or I guess having the burden of figuring out which lenses I want to bring on vacation or which setup. It's the only one that you can bring. There are attachments if you are interested in getting like a 50 millimeter or a wide angle lens. But for me, I think having less gear is better. It does have Wi-Fi, so I use this a lot when I take photos on this camera and then want to share them right away to Instagram or something. I transfer my photos from the memory card onto my camera using the Fujifilm's app. It's super easy to use. It's easy to set up. Once you set it up with your iPhone, as soon as you press connect, then your phone's connected to Wi-Fi. Then you open the app on your phone. And to be honest, this Fujifilm's app works better than my Canon app. That way you can download any of the photos from your camera roll right onto your phone and edit them using any of the apps that you have on your phone, and then post them straight to Instagram. And then also, if I want to do like a self-portrait or something, I set this up on a tripod, a bag, a rock, usually a rock or a bag, and then use my phone as the remote. So I can view what is on the screen, what the camera is seeing from my phone. I can compose my image and then take the shot with the self timer. It's really cool. I love using it. Since it has a 24 megapixel sensor, I don't mind having to straighten out horizons if I can't find a level rock. The autofocus on this camera is really fast. I generally set mine to zone focusing. It doesn't get that tight. It's about 6 squares. I'll show you what it looks like. And then the bottom button I set for the autofocus selection, so I can pick either wide tracking, zone, or single point focus. If the zone focusing is too wide for what it is I'm trying to focus on, then I usually just switch to single point. And then within the single point, you can select how big or how small you want your focusing point. Another autofocus thing is it does have face tracking. So when you get close to a subject, it detects a face, it locks onto that face. You're able to switch between faces if it's not on the one that is closest to the camera or the one that you want to focus on. I find that to be really handy. One thing to note with the autofocus, it has a pre-autofocus setting. I brought this camera to another music festival and I didn't really hear that it was looking for focus the whole time. So when it's on pre-autofocus, it's just looking, and then the camera actually never goes to sleep. So it killed my batteries really quickly before the end of the day. I was kind of bummed. So I wanted to talk about battery life actually. I highly recommend, I bought 2 additional batteries from Wasabi Power. I think they're like 20 bucks, but they last about half the amount of shots as the Fujifilm battery that comes with the camera. So I would highly recommend, if you have the budget, to just get one of the Fujifilm batteries just to have as a backup. If you're out and you run out of juice, it's nice to have just extra power. It does have the ability to charge through a USB-C port. So if you have a charging block, you could easily just plug it into the side and then charge your battery that way as well. I generally, with one battery, will get a full day of shooting. I don't shoot that much all day, but I definitely have extra battery life at the end of the day. So if you're out traveling and you don't want to carry extra batteries, it does last a pretty long time, and it does have a sleep function when you're not using it if you forget to turn the camera off. So this has a way to set it up in automatic mode. If you don't know how to use a camera in manual. So each control ring has an A on it. So you just set your aperture to A, you can set your ISO to A, and then you could set your shutter speed to A. So then you get in full automatic mode, and then you have this little exposure compensation dial on the top. I haven't found very good luck with the automatic mode. I find that when I'm trying to shoot fast, either the exposure compensation has moved because it's right on the edge, and then I'm underexposed or overexposed. So what I do instead of using autos, I use the electronic viewfinder. So when you have that enabled, you can see if you're over or underexposed, and then just take the time to move your control rings to the spot where you want them, and then you're good to go. Just something that I personally do if you don't know how to use manual. So it does have an on-camera flash, and I am a huge fan of flash photography. I couldn't figure out how to use it when I first got it. Somehow it got clicked into electronic shutter. When it's in electronic, then it disables the flash mode. So if you want to use the flash, then you can click it in mechanical shutter, and then you're able to go down to your menu and you can adjust either TTL through the lens metering or manual mode if you know how to set your flash. Either one won't work when you're in electronic shutter. So you might have to go through menus. This took me forever to figure out what was wrong. I tried everything. I watched 1,000 YouTube videos and finally figured out that one critical piece of information. So having one lens, this is a 23mm f2 lens, and on an APS-C sensor, it's the 35mm equivalent if it was full frame. It is a limitation. I said earlier you could get adapters or whatever, which I don't do. I feel that I love this focal length. I feel like you can get great portraits, you can get nice street photography. Having just one lens saves me the extra thought of which lens do I want to bring with me. Some people don't even want to think about that at all. So you just have this one camera. You don't have to have any additional costs like if you buy a camera body and then have to buy a lens. This comes in one package. It is super sharp. It has a really shallow depth of field. It goes to f2, so it's great in low light. And it gives you that effect if you're used to portrait mode. It's like having portrait mode, but instead of doing computational editing, you get portrait mode just because that's what actual camera does. It doesn't have to do some processing. All right, so let's wrap this up. Who's this camera good for? I think it's good for anybody, especially if you're someone that really likes vintage looking, tactile things. This is kind of like a tool. It feels really great in the hands. It's definitely a level above an iPhone. I travel with only this camera, no computer, 1 or 2 memory cards, 2 batteries, and I feel completely satisfied with my photographic needs. If I feel like I need a wide angle shot, I just pull up my smartphone. If I feel like I need a wide angle shot, I just pull out my iPhone with a ultra wide angle lens, and that usually satisfies those shots that I can't get with this. And if I feel like I need to crop in or get tighter, I just crop in post. So, all right, so let's wrap this video up. I could go on forever on this camera. I really love it. I've had it, like I said, for 5 years. I plan to keep using it until it dies. I don't think at this point it feels like it's going to. It's very durable, very high quality. It's definitely a level above an iPhone. If you're someone who wants to get into photography and take it to the next level and have, you know, something that makes photography fun, I would highly recommend getting an X100F. That's going to do it for this video. If you like Fujifilms, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos on photography, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.